Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to our Saturday upgrade and commander build video, where today I'm featuring the Tier 10 British heavy cruiser, battle cruiser, the Defense, which composes of 6 356mm guns with overall incredible guns. Some great things about the ship, but also the very downside of the ship, as I covered in yesterday's video, is that the ship just lacks survivability, and that really comes down to our armor scheme, and we will get into that. So, that being said, what kind of cruiser is Defense? Is she like a brawling cruiser? Is she a mid-range cruiser? Is she more of a sniper cruiser? And honestly, she's a bit of an odd duck because of her lack of survivability. Like, you'd think you'd want to play like a long range, but because of how her layout of having all 6 of her main battery guns in the forward part of the ship, and her conceal really wants you to play more mid-range. And mid-range, I normally say at the high tier is 12 to 15, which fits well with her smoke fire penalty, which is 11-2, as you do get smokes with Defense. So you kind of want to play around that. The problem is when the smoke goes down, if any team's just rushing into you, you don't have survivability. But you do have a hydroacoustic search, and you have 8 potent torpedoes to make up from that are forward firing torpedoes. So let's just go ahead and get into talking about the armor. So Defense is this mid-range cruiser that can, of course, somewhat handle herself at closer range, depending on the target you're going up against. But her armor is lacking, to say the least. She has a massive 25mm nose, a snout, and also massive 25mm stern with a flat bottom, meaning that you can actually, a well-placed shot from a battleship can easily pin this. Anything over, I think it's 358mm gun or higher will pin the 25mm. So that means, other battle cruisers, a few battle cruisers, mostly battleships, many battleships at the higher tiers can citadel you from the rear, as well they can citadel you in overmatching your bow into the ship. You do get a 30mm torpedoes protection and armor belt, and ironically, the most durable part of this ship is the deck plating. This deck plating is 40. It makes you a little more resilient to high explosive spam, where not as many cruisers, or like let's say more of the light cruisers, destroyers, will be able to penetrate your deck. So you get some survivability there, but it's really lacking. And then of course you have this fore and aft bottom, which is 40. For me, I'd love to see this like 40mm get raised up higher, or just some more protection on the ship, because it just struggles with the survivability category. Now, you don't want to go broadside with this boat. So, it's a little bit of an odd duck because, normally you have, let's say, a rear turret back here, and you know how long the citadel goes to. And yeah, it goes basically back to the stack. And it's a 229mm, so technically the citadel is the most armored. But it really doesn't do a lot. You will easily get clapped if you're broadside to enemy battle cruisers, battleships, and your 30mm broadside plating also makes you very susceptible to just full penetration, even from light cruisers. You can see there's 102 beneath the 40mm deck plating as well. And the guns themselves will be incapacitated regularly. They're flat. There's not like an angle. So 305 to 178 to 102 on the side plate and the rear plate, and 127 on top, with the barbettes being 210. So it's not if your guns will be incapacitated, it's when your guns will be incapacitated. So, I made a comparison to Marseille yesterday. Marseille also has a 25mm bow and stern. The difference is it's considerably smaller, and you actually get really strong, like a 200mm belt side protection. So yeah, so don't let the massive hit points fool you. This is without survivability expert on the commander as well. In the clip yesterday, you saw me go through like 60,000 hit points in 30 seconds. Yeah, it was brutal. So that being said, let's talk about the modules. So our reload time right now that we build into is 15.8 seconds. You know, if you get Top Gun Grader activated, what the heck is that skill? You can see a glimpse of the build here. Top Grade Gunner. We can get that down lower, as well as Adrenaline Rush. So you can see 15.8 for now. The 100 egg return time is pretty brutal. It's 36 seconds. Maximum HE shell damage is 6,100. It's among the strongest in the game. Your maximum AP shell damage is 10,500. Also among the strongest in terms of maximum damage value per shell, rivaling Sevastopol. Like they switch out, I think, between the AP and high explosive, one way or the other. Without anything with Survivability Expert or the Charlie Kilo, your hit points are 60,600. When we take Charlie Kilo, that pushes us up to 60,650. I think in terms of amount of hit points as a tier 10 cruiser in the game, I think she places 14th in terms of hit points among all like 60 tier 10 cruisers in the game. Torpedoes, there are 622 millimeter torpedoes. They have a 180 turn time of 12.5. The torps you probably saw yesterday in the video if you caught it. The torpedo firing angles are kind of like out like this, and then over here. They're up in the bow. I don't know if it'll take me in and kind of show you more closely where they are. They're in there. Can't see them, but they're in there. So they do that little weird ziggy zag when they launch out. So, you know, high explosive penetration on your bow can incapacitate the torpedoes briefly. Just keep that in mind. Their 90-second reload time, 10-kilometer range, 21,000 damage, 67 knot speed with a 1.7 detectability range. Your gunfire control system is 18.3. No real reason to build beyond this, in my opinion, because ideally you don't necessarily want to be playing beyond 18-kilometer range with these guns. Propulsion, 33 knots. Sierra Mike, we can boost that up to 34.7, which I do recommend running here on defense. The first upgrade slot, I would recommend Main Armaments Mod 1. This reduces the risk of your main battery and torpedo tubes becoming incapacitated by negative 20%, improves their survivability by plus 50%, and reduces the repair time by 20%. So do invest in that. I think it's the best of the three here. And the second slot, let's say you don't have enough coal to get a special upgrade, which I'll talk about. You know, it could be either or. I haven't really had issues with the steering gears or engine being incapacitated because, you know, this boat is to be played bow on, right? So you're not really taking many shots from the rear in that situation. So, you know, it's an okay for this cruiser to go for the damage control system mod 1 just to reduce the risk of catching fire and flooding for 250,000 credits. Otherwise, if you have the coal for 17,000 coal or 12,750 with the 25% off coupon that you get once a month in the customizations in the armory, you can get the Hydroacoustic Search mod 1, which boosts your consumable action time by plus 20%. So then you can see right now that's taking us up to 120 seconds. Otherwise, it would be 100-second action time. We'll talk more about that here shortly. Third slot, I'm taking the Aiming Systems Mod 1. I'll put on the right side of the screen what it looks like with versus without. The main reason is you get some incredible good Sigma, and really good horizontal and vertical dispersion on defense. So building interior accuracy is highly recommended in my opinion. Even though you have a bit of a brutal turret traverse speed. But it's really great because it's negative 7% on your maximum main battery shell dispersion. A little bit of a boost to the torpedo tube traverse speed as well. And a little boost to your secondaries. Not that you should be going for a secondary build, but it does help that out as well. And when you're looking at how defense is set up, I mean, all you have to do is kind of rotate side to side because all three turrets, you know, are forward facing. Like this turret's not so close up where it has to do like an inverted 270-degree turn or whatever. It's only actually when you're kiting away where it's not very helpful. So that means you can kind of live with the fact that you have a 36 seconds-ish 100 turn time on the turrets. So for me, the Aiming Systems Mod 1 has been okay and fine to use. You know, there might be other commanders who can't stand it, so then, yeah, you'll want to go for main battery mod 2. I've not been in a situation really where I've wanted this. I've really enjoyed having the dispersion. Fourth slot, couple things you could do here. I think you already get the built-in propulsion on defense, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong. But I have propulsion mod 1 here. I think if it did have built-in propulsion, maybe they don't offer it. I get confused what Wargaming does and doesn't do anymore sometimes. But time taken to reach full engine power when accelerating, -50%. This helps you in some of the more close quarter scenarios that you might find yourself with defense. So I do recommend this. You know, the maneuverability, you have a 12.7 second rudder shift time. You know, you could do steering gears mod 1, but I've preferred the propulsion mod 1. Interesting, Wargaming actually recommends the damage control system mod 2 just to put out your fire extinction time and flooding recovery time by -15%. I think this boat has full duration fires and floods, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of like a Stalingrad scenario, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, you know, feel free to correct me in the comments. I'm not perfect when it comes to this, always. So they are recommending that, and I think one of the reasons why they're recommending is just try to help you with your survivability on the boat. But I have just preferred this. This has helped me avoid a lot of the Dutch airstrikes, like from Trump's, Prince van Oranje's, Golden Lions, and at times some submarine torpedoes as well. So I think it's just a better buy overall. Fifth slot, we've taken the concealment system mod 1. Your conceal when fully built into is 10.1. This is definitely a get out of jail free card if you find yourself in some unlucky scenarios, just because of your lack of, again, your survivability. Usually if you have a ship that lacks in survivability, you want to be building into the conceal to help you out to disengage or just go dark sooner. So 10.1 by sea, and then by air it's 7.5. When you fire, smoke fire penalty is 11.2. Don't really recommend any of the other options here. Sixth slot, main battery mod 3 is what you're going to want to go for. Your main battery reload time, -12%. Main battery traverse speed, -13%. So that's contributing to that longer 180-degree turn time if you're not taking grease the gears or the turret traverse here in the third slot. Your HE DPM and AP DPM are pretty low. I think AP DPM was 51 out of 60, and I think high explosive DPM was around, it's in the 40s of among the all tier 10 cruisers in the game. So just building into this honestly is very helpful in my opinion. You have good fire chance. 356 British high explosive shells does pretty good, causing damage to enemy ships and setting them on fire, and like dealing with like that Petropavlovsk example you saw yesterday. I don't recommend building into the range. You know, it's like I don't really know why you'd want to go beyond 18.3 because this boat doesn't play well at 18.3. The shells, they don't travel as fast as Sevastopol's, as example, another, you know, battle cruiser with heavy guns, big guns. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. I think the 18.3 is fine. Yeah, that'd be my input there. Armament wise, high explosive shells, again, these are 356, 60,100 damage, 41% chance of causing fire on target. You know, naturally we could boost that up if we so wish. We can go up to 43% there. You pin 89mm, very helpful for some of the more heavy targets in the game. You know, normally high explosive is never a bad option. You definitely smack destroyers pretty well because of the alpha from the high explosive shells and the subs as well. Shell velocity, 757 meters a second. It's the same with the velocity of the armor-piercing shells. You do 10,500 damage. So I think you saw that broadside Yamato of the 4 guns we were able to fire. We did 32,000 some odd damage with 4 shells, 3 citadels, and 1 pin, I think it was. So you can definitely lay down the smack with these guns. That's the main... your main strength of the ship in addition to the torpedoes. You're a glass cannon. We have a little bit of a Marlborough situation going on again, if you're familiar with the Marlborough being a glass cannon ship in the game. Torpedoes, again, 90-second reload time, 10-kilometer range, 21,000 maximum damage. I think you saw we hit a bow on Yamato, and we only did like 10k because of the torpedo protection belt. So keep in mind the torpedo protection. You won't always get that, naturally get the full value. 67 knot speed, detectability range 1.7. So they got some good speed on them. They're not like 55 knot Schlieffen Elbing torps, right? And then you get depth charge airstrike with the 8-kilometer range, 30-second reload time. You get 2 available flights, 1 attack aircraft per flight, bombs and payload 2, maximum bomb damage 4,900. So you could drop up to 4 bombs if you fired 2 planes back to back. Consumable wise, standard DCP, damage control party for a tier 10 cruiser, 5-second action time, cooldown time 60 seconds, unlimited number of charges. Repair party 381, consumable action time 28 seconds, cooldown time 60 seconds, number of consumables 4. Hydroacoustic search, we get 4 of them. 3.5, detection of torpedoes, detection of ships 5, submarine spotting at maximum depth 2. Action time 120 seconds. We built it up from 100 to 120 with the hydroacoustic search mod 1, just as a reminder. And we can build into this a bit more, excuse me. And going over to the short burst smoke generators that are commonly found upon the British destroyers. Has a smoke screen dispersion time of 40 seconds, an action time of 15 seconds, excuse me. Cooldown time of 70 seconds, number of consumables 6. So right now, you'd be looking at a 30 seconds before your next smoke gets up by the time it goes down. So just keep that in mind. It depends on how you play it out with your action time of your smoke and cooldown. November Foxtrot I do run just to get the consumables cooldown faster. So you see 57 or 60 57, 60 57, 120 to 114, 70 to 66.5. We want to build the hydro out. We can add 12 seconds onto the action time. Helpful. I like running that. We run India Delta, boost to 450 HP, 458 HP per second, versus I think it was like 381. You need it. Again, survivability, big issue here on the boat. Then you might be looking at a ramming scenario, so you can take Hotel Yankee, damage caused by ramming an enemy, plus 50%, damage received when ramming an enemy, negative 20%. Another thing to consider here would be X-Ray Papa, which would only add a second and a half on your action time. 15 seconds to 16.5 seconds action time, so not necessarily needed. Your AA defense is bleh. You could boost this up as well to get more out of continuous damage and damage from shell explosions. It's 5.2, so your IA is not really firing to let's say 4.8 or something like that, because when you look here, it's just medium and long range AA. You don't have any short range AA, so it's odd duck syndrome here on this boat. So it's not great. So it sucks being focused down by tier 10 carriers and super carriers. So this is the normal layout I run. If you want to do something more, you don't care so much about speed, you could take India Yankee just to get the fires extinguishing time reduced. So, but because I don't know how much you need a ceramic, because usually once you're set up on a position, you're kind of anchoring on a flank, right? But if you want to close the distance, then ceramic is naturally helpful. Now I'm running Andrew Cunningham here on my defense. I respect him. I was originally running him on Minotaur. I think he has maybe some better use here, possibly with the defense over Minotaur. So in terms of how to get Andrew Cunningham, if you're newer to the game, you will find him in the Armory. There's a particular talent that I really like taking Andrew Cunningham on defense that I think just helps your survivability overall defense, but I'll just show you him first as we go into here to commanders, and we're going to scroll down. He's here available for 175,000 coal. He's not the most strongest of the 175k coal commanders, but he is good. He comes with some enhanced skills, but it's really the talents is where it's at with Mr. Cunningham. So those talents are, the first is Ruthless. Upon getting the Wither achievement, your main battery reload time reduced by negative 10%. You wouldn't get that on a Minotaur, right? I was just running him for fun on Minnow. Because if I have a high explosive on defense, you don't have high explosive on Minotaur. Your torpedo tube reload time reduced by negative 10% as well. Then you have lightning fast. Activates once per battle after causing 4 floods on enemy ships. You get plus 5% on your ship speed. And it's particularly the equipment spoils is why I like running Andrew Cunningham on my defense, because he will give us an additional consumable. So we can go from 4 repair parties to 5, 4 hydroacoustic searches to 5, and 6 smokes to 7 smokes, right? Because I'm running Superintendent already, so you can see 4. So I've proxied this skill a couple times, you know, because all it requires you to get is just 2 kills. And so that helps. It's very massive to have another heal, you know, because that repair party has the 60-second reload time, or 57 with November Foxtrot. You know, if you're thinking about running another commander, I mean, there's like something like Jack Dunkirk, but on cruisers. He does have the Grease the Gears, Consumable Specialist, and Consumable Enhancements, enhanced skills here as well. But for Mr. Cunningham, it's just here on cruisers, it's only the Consumable Specialist, which I'm not even running, right? So it's really the talents is what we're going for here, but otherwise Jack Dunkirk or Bert Dunkirk would be good options here. So this is the build I'm running on my defense. There's 2 builds I would run here on defense, primary, and there's a third one I would go as well. As you can see, there's certainly some interesting things going on here. So let's just let me walk through this build, and then I will talk about a couple other builds options as well. Yeah, and then I'll talk about what I don't like about this build at the same time. So Grease the Gears, plus 15%, just to help with that 36-second 180 turn time. Otherwise, we'd be like over 40 without Grease the Gears. And then we take Priority Target, just to know when we're being targeted. Because once you start getting targeted by 2-3 ships, you basically just want to instantly pop a smoke. Because you want to keep your survivability intact, right? So this is really helpful because of having such poor survivability on defense. And then for 6-point commander, I do Adrenaline Rush. You know, as we lose hit points for each 1% of HP lost, we're getting a faster main battery reload time, torpedo tube reload time, secondary, and a little bit of a continuous AA damage buff. 10-point Consumer Expert to get us down to the 10.1 by sea and 7.5 by air. After this 10-point, I'd go for 13-point commander being Superintendent to get the 4th repair party, 4th hydro, 6th smoke. After the 13-point commander to 17-point commander, I'd take top grade gunner. Negative 10% on the secondary battery reload time, and then the can be activated effect of negative 8% on the main battery reload time whenever there's a ship within your ship's main your ship's detectability range. Standard detectability range, that was the word I was looking for. So basically, anything comes in 10.1, we get a negative 8% reload time. So that helps bring that 15.8 down to like 15, as an example. And then from the 17 to a 21-point build, you can see I have the Outnumbered skill. This is a skill I don't really talk much about here in the game. It's a very niche skill. You know, normally it's like more of a random comp clan battles where you put a Moskva, Petropavlovsk, Stalingrad, or something like out on the flank on like the 110 line, and then you utilize this skill. So what it does is that it automatically activates. Your ship's characteristics improve while the number of allies within your ship's main battery firing range doesn't exceed the number of visible enemy ships. Your ship is not counted as an allied ship. So you get a plus 8% ship speed and a maximum main battery shell dispersion and negative 10%. So I'll put it on the screen now. What does that look like when Outnumbered is activated? So the Outnumbered skill has really good synergy with the aiming systems skill, right? So it's pretty potent to have here. And it's a potent 4-point skill when you're able to activate it. And with Outnumbered, and typically how defense plays anyhow, you want to be playing the flank. Defense doesn't play really well in mid unless you have some islands to help keep you cozy. just because you can be more vulnerable to cross-map shots, crossfires from either flank. So it's more preferable to play defense on the flank, and that's hence where the outnumbered skill comes into play, and hence when I talk about this being a mid-range battleship of like the 12 to 15, if you're playing the flank, usually you can kind of sneak up a little bit more closer, but you're just more vulnerable if enemy team decides to just plow your flank or your teammates decide to flee. So it's kind of hard to disengage on the flank if your flank's collapsed. So hence that's where I like top grade gunner and the outnumbered skill. So there's a little bit of synergy going on here. So I've had some nasty sick dispersions that have been really cool on enemy destroyers, subs, battleships when this skill is activated. I think the example of even the Yamato that we Citadel, I think our outnumbered skill is activated in just that video. So you're more deadly with the outnumbered skill. Now, so I like this build. What I don't like about it is basically I'm choosing 4 points to invest in outnumbered, and I'm neglecting survivability expert, and I'm neglecting gun feeder. If this is a great build, but if it's a very niche build, most commanders will probably favor dropping outnumbered and taking survivability expert and gun feeder. These are really great guns, and so it sucks to me. I'll be like 10 seconds into the reload, cruiser's gonna go broadside in front of me, and I've got eye explosives still loaded. It's like I'm at that point I'm just kind of forced to fire whatever I have in the gun, right? So let's just say, just to show you what would that look like to have a different commander on here. I'll throw a bad cap on here. So yeah, this is the build we're doing right now. So if I dropped outnumbered, you can see what happens with survivability here. It goes from 62,650 to 68,400. So the question becomes, how valuable are those additional 4,750 hit points to you? As an example, I mean, it can go whatever. I mean, again, you have the example of me losing 60,000 hit points in like 33 seconds. Is another 4,000 hit points, like, does that make me live 4 or 5 seconds longer? Is that big enough for me to go for? But other times, yeah, depending on scenario, the additional hit points will likely help you out. And the gun feeder, what we'll do is it'll take your reload time 9.5 if you end up switching in the midst of a reload. I really, what I would love to have is outnumbered with gun feeder. That's honestly what I would really like to have here on this boat. Now, if you want to utilize the outnumbered skill, so this is the third build option here. You could go, second build option. A third build option would be to take outnumbered, drop top grade, and go this route. So you're still getting the outnumbered, utilizing it, and I'm still getting my gun feeder, and I'm getting the additional hit points. But I think defense works quite well in having the top grade gunner. So this is why, I would argue probably most commanders will want to go for this build. If you're into a glass cannon boat with really amazing guns and you really want to make it more of a niche build, and you want to challenge yourself, then I would go for the outnumbered skill. And as I said in the Friday highlight video, for me, defense is a very abusive ship because on one hand, I like playing it because of how satisfying the main battery guns are, but it's a ship where if you don't have ideal circumstances, you just get trolled, you just get farmed on, and you die so fast because of the lack of survivability. So it's kind of like one of those ships in the game that, as I stated in yesterday's video, it's not worth 415,000 coal. It's should be 315,000. I don't recommend buying defense because it's such a niche boat and it only performs well under certain conditions, to the extent of if you get ignored by the enemy team, then you can work magic, great. And that's why you really have to work flanks, and you need at least some competent teammates around you. Sucks when you're dealing with Trumps, Utrechts, Golden Lions, Blends van Oranje, submarines, hybrids, CVs. Air power dominates defense. So that's not fun when people are taking advantage of that weakness. But build number 1. Build number 2, probably the most recommended build, I would say, for most players in the game. If you do decide to go for defense, you know, you could easily swap this over if you feel like the outnumbered skill is a must-have. You know, that's what I would say. You know, in terms of others, some niche things you could do with the boat. You know, you have Pack-a-Punch. You could boost the torpedo damage up to 24,000 hit points, but you know, I don't always get torpedo hits every game, so I kind of have a harder time going for that one. You know, you could build more into the fire chances of the high explosive shells. You know, you go up to 44%, but I don't think the 2 points there is worth it because there's just a lot of other places that demand the skill points here. So, you know, I don't know what has the future in store for defense. You know, either A, I would say Wargaming needs to reduce the price of defense, or 2, what I would prefer the most is that they buffed the armor on the bow and stern of defense, even if that meant giving up hit points just to have a more durable ship, because it's just not fun to play when you just melt so fast. So it's a very situational ship. It's a very niche boat in the game. It's okay. I mean, it's a good boat. You know, it's got amazing guns, but other than that, and really good torps, but other than that, you know, it can be a pain to play. So, hope you liked today's upgrade commander build video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you do like today's video, give a thumbs up. If you don't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you subscribe, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.